The afternoon sun bathed the lush California vineyard in a warm golden light as guests filled the rows of white chairs overlooking the rolling hills. Vincent stood at the altar in his tailored navy suit, Lorenzo's hand firmly in his, but instead of proceeding with the vows, he reached for the microphone with a deep breath. "Lorenzo, the love of my life, and all of you who have come to celebrate with us today, I can't start this marriage without telling the truth about the conversion camp that almost destroyed me and the secrets my family has kept for years." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lorenzo turned to him, his handsome face etched with surprise, but his grip on Vincent's hand never wavered, offering silent strength. Vincent's parents sat frozen in the front row, his mother's face draining of color, while his father stared straight ahead. This was the moment Vincent had rehearsed in his mind for months, the point of no return. He loved Lorenzo more than he had ever thought possible, and that love gave him the courage to finally speak. But as he began, his mind drifted back to where it all started, back in Texas when he was just a teenager trying to understand himself. It was the summer of his 16th year in a quiet suburb outside Houston. Vincent had always felt different, but it wasn't until he met Alex in his high school English class that the feelings became impossible to ignore. Alex had a bright smile and an easy laugh that made Vincent's heart race in a way no girl ever had. They spent afternoons studying together, talking about books and dreams, and Vincent found himself stealing glances, wondering why his stomach fluttered every time their hands brushed. At first, he told himself it was just friendship, but deep down he knew the truth. He was gay, and in his conservative Christian family, that word was like a curse. The night he finally came out to his parents was one he would never forget. They were sitting around the dinner table, his father discussing the latest sermon from church. Vincent's hands shook as he pushed his food around the plate. "Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something," he started, his voice barely above a whisper. "I think I'm gay." The silence that followed was deafening. His mother dropped her fork, tears welling in her eyes immediately. "No, Vincent, that's not possible. God doesn't make mistakes like that," she said, her voice cracking. His father slammed his fist on the table, his face turning red with anger. "This is just a phase, son. We'll get you help. No son of mine is going to live that lifestyle." From that day on, everything changed. They took him to their pastor for counseling sessions where he was told to pray harder, to fight the temptation. Vincent tried. He went to youth group, dated a girl from church to please them, but the guilt ate at him from the inside. He felt like a failure, like he was broken and needed fixing. Nights were the worst, lying in bed wondering if God really hated him for feelings he couldn't control. The pressure built until his parents decided that regular therapy wasn't enough. On his 19th birthday, they sat him down with serious expressions. "We found a place that can help you, Vincent. New Horizons Camp. It's a program designed to guide young men like you back to the right path," his father explained. His mother nodded, wiping her eyes. "It's for your own good, honey. You'll thank us one day," Vincent argued, pleaded, but in the end, the fear of losing his family won out. He packed a small bag with clothes and his Bible, his heart heavy with dread. The drive to the camp took hours, winding through the Texas countryside into more remote hills. As the car pulled up to the iron gates of New Horizons, surrounded by dense pine trees and a tall fence that felt more like a prison than a place of healing, Vincent's stomach twisted into knots. His father turned to him with a stern look. "This will make you the man you're supposed to be." Little did any of them know how much pain waited behind those gates, or how it would shape the man Vincent became. The gates creaked open, and Vincent stepped into a world that promised salvation but delivered doubt. The counselors at New Horizons wore polo shirts with crosses embroidered on the pockets and spoke in calm, authoritative tones that left no room for argument. "Your attractions are a lie from the enemy," the head counselor, Mr. Harlan, announced during the first group circle. 20 young men sat in folding chairs under fluorescent lights, eyes downcast. Vincent listened as each one shared stories of struggle, forced confessions that echoed his own fears. He repeated the scripted prayers, his voice hollow, while inside a storm raged. Every session chipped away at his sense of self, making him question if the flutter he felt for boys was truly wrong. Days blurred into a routine of morning devotionals, afternoon lectures on biblical manhood, and evening accountability partners who monitored every conversation. Vincent was paired with a quiet boy from Oklahoma named Tyler, who whispered late at night that he didn't believe the program worked either. "They say we're broken, but what if we're just different?" Tyler once said, his voice trembling in the dark bunkhouse. Those stolen words became Vincent's lifeline, small rebellions against the guilt that threatened to swallow him whole. He started keeping a secret journal under his mattress, writing letters to his future self about the love he refused to deny. The words gave him strength when the counselors pushed harder, demanding he renounce any impure thoughts in front of the group. The emotional weight grew heavier with each passing week. Vincent watched friends break down in tears during intense prayer sessions, begging for deliverance that never came. He felt the same despair creeping in, wondering if his parents were right and he was destined to live a lie forever. Yet in quiet moments during hikes around the campgrounds, he caught glimpses of the sky and remembered the boy he had been before the shame. One particularly brutal afternoon, after a marathon session where Mr. Harlan singled him out for lack of progress, Vincent reached his limit. The realization hit like a wave. He wasn't the one who needed fixing. The program was the lie. That night, he packed his journal and told the staff he was leaving. They tried to convince him to stay, warning of eternal consequences, but Vincent walked out the gates with his head held high for the first time in months. Back home in Houston, he played the part of the reformed son. His parents hugged him tightly, praising God for the miracle. Vincent smiled through Sunday dinners and church picnics, but the fire inside him burned brighter than ever. He enrolled in community college, kept his head down, and waited for the day he could live openly. Years later, standing at the vineyard altar with Lorenzo's hand in his, Vincent felt that same quiet resistance surge forward. He squeezed Lorenzo's fingers, drawing courage from the man who had shown him love without conditions, and continued speaking to the stunned crowd. The years after New Horizons passed in a blur of careful steps and hidden dreams. Vincent transferred to a state university in California, far from Texas judgments, where the ocean air felt like freedom. He majored in literature, losing himself in stories of people who fought for their truth. It was there, in a late-night study group, that he met Lorenzo. The tall, light brown-haired guy with kind eyes and a gentle laugh sat across the table, debating a novel's themes with passion that drew Vincent in immediately. Their first conversation stretched until dawn, talking about family expectations and the courage it took to be authentic. Vincent didn't come out right away, but Lorenzo's patience made it easy when he finally did. "I've been through fire too," Lorenzo said softly, sharing his own story of a distant father who never accepted him. From that night, their bond grew into something real and steady. They took walks along the beach, shared quiet dinners in small apartments, and built a life where Vincent could breathe without fear. Lorenzo never pushed, only listened when Vincent spoke of the camp in fragments. "You survived that place and you're still you," Lorenzo would say, his hand warm on Vincent's shoulder. Those words healed cracks Vincent thought permanent. Yet the past lingered in phone calls home. His parents asked when he would settle down with a nice girl, their voices laced with the same old hope. Vincent dodged, fearing the truth would shatter the fragile peace. The internal battle raged during holidays, when he sat at the family table pretending everything was fine, while his heart ached for Lorenzo waiting back in California. As their relationship deepened, Vincent faced new choices. Lorenzo proposed one rainy evening in their cozy San Francisco apartment, kneeling with a simple silver band. "I want to build a future where you never have to hide again," he said. Vincent said yes, tears mixing with the rain outside. Planning the wedding brought joy but also dread. Inviting his family meant risking everything. He chose to include them, hoping time had softened their hearts. Now, at the altar with guests murmuring and his parents pale with shock, Vincent felt the weight of every suppressed memory. He looked into Lorenzo's steady eyes and found the strength to keep going, the love between them a shield against the coming storm. The vineyard breeze carried the scent of flowers, reminding him that growth came from facing the roots, no matter how painful. The wedding planning had been a dance of hope and hesitation. Vincent and Lorenzo chose the vineyard for its open skies and rolling hills, a place that symbolized new beginnings. They wrote vows that spoke of healing and partnership, but Vincent carried the unspoken burden of his past. Nights before the ceremony, he lay awake beside Lorenzo, tracing the lines of his partner's hand and wondering if the truth would break them all. Lorenzo sensed the tension. "Whatever you need to say tomorrow, I'm right here," he whispered one night, pulling Vincent close. That unconditional support became Vincent's anchor. Family arrived the day before, smiles tight but present. His mother hugged him a little too long, whispering prayers under her breath. His father clapped him on the back, avoiding eye contact with Lorenzo. The rehearsal dinner was polite small talk, but Vincent felt the undercurrent of old judgments. He introduced Lorenzo as his partner without apology. Watching his parents' faces flicker with discomfort they tried to hide. In quiet moments, Vincent replayed the camp memories. The way it had taught him silence was survival. But love with Lorenzo had rewritten that lesson. Their evenings together, cooking simple meals and laughing over shared books, had shown him that authenticity wasn't a sin but a gift. As the ceremony approached, Vincent's internal conflict peaked. He rehearsed the speech in the mirror, voice steady despite the tremor in his chest. The decision to reveal everything wasn't about revenge but about freedom, for himself and for any young man still trapped in silence. Lorenzo stood by, offering quiet reassurance. "This is your moment to be whole," he said. The morning of the wedding dawned bright, the vineyard alive with color. Vincent dressed carefully, heart pounding, knowing the words he was about to speak would change everything. Yet as he walked down the aisle with Lorenzo's hand in his, a calm settled over him. The love they had built, through late-night talks and shared dreams, was stronger than any secret. The murmurs grew louder as Vincent continued, his voice gaining strength with every word. New Horizons wasn't just a camp. It was designed to break people like me, and the man who stood behind it, the one who funded it and pushed it on families like ours, was my own uncle, Richard. Gasps echoed across the vineyard. His mother covered her mouth, his father turned ashen, and distant relatives shifted uncomfortably. Uncle Richard, the respected deacon who sat 3 rows back in a crisp suit, froze in place. The name hung in the air like thunder. Vincent had discovered the connection years later through old documents, the checks his uncle wrote to keep the program running, the influence he wielded to send troubled boys there. Lorenzo's hand tightened, a silent promise that they faced this together. Vincent spoke of the long road after the camp, the years of pretending, the moment he met Lorenzo and learned what real acceptance felt like. "I hid because I was scared of losing you all, but love isn't something you fix. It's something you honor." Tears stung his eyes as he described the quiet growth, the therapy sessions he sought on his own, the nights Lorenzo held him through nightmares of guilt. The family sat in stunned silence, the shock of betrayal mixing with years of unspoken pain. Uncle Richard stood slowly, face pale, but Vincent raised a hand. "This isn't anger. This is truth so we can all heal." The high point of the ceremony shifted from vows to catharsis. Guests wiped tears, some nodding in understanding. Vincent turned to Lorenzo, sliding the ring onto his finger with steady hands. "With you, I finally became the man I was meant to be, not the one they tried to create." Applause mixed with sobs as the 2 men embraced, the vineyard sun warming their shoulders. The revelation had shattered illusions, but in the pieces lay possibility for something real. In the weeks that followed, the family fractured and slowly mended in unexpected ways. Vincent's mother called first, voice soft with regret, asking to meet for coffee. His father sent a letter, admitting the pressure he had felt from his own brother Richard. Even Uncle Richard reached out, offering a halting apology that opened doors to honest conversations. Lorenzo stood beside Vincent through every difficult talk, his presence a steady light. Together they built a home filled with books, laughter, and the freedom Vincent once thought impossible. The wedding had been the beginning of a new chapter, not the end. Vincent reflected often on the journey, from the scared teen at the camp gates to the man who chose truth at the altar. The emotional scars remained, but they no longer defined him. Love with Lorenzo taught him that identity wasn't a battle to win but a truth to live. Friends from the Vineyard days stayed in touch, sharing how the story inspired their own courage. The family gatherings grew less tense, conversations deeper, as everyone learned that forgiveness wasn't forgetting but moving forward together. Was Vincent right to expose the full truth about the conversion camp at his own wedding, or did it destroy the family bonds forever? True or false?